Good evening, friends. Hello to Geeta, Jens, Bradley, Elaine, and Einat, and everyone else who is joining for the first session on the Paramis. So this evening, we had a bit of a debate because every night there will be a surprise speaker. So we're like, will it be Ayasoma or will it be Bhante Sudaza? Will it be Ayasoma or will it be Bhante Sudaza? And then we thought that the person who hadn't spoken, or the person who spoke less about generosity in the past couple of days, weeks, months, however long this pandemic has been for, was Bhante Sudaza.
It's not quite how I remember this going. I remember going more like, will you give the talk? And she said no.
But that was out of compassion for everyone else because they've heard my stories on generosity, but not your point of view. So Bhante Sudaza will be kindly sharing some words on the parami of dāna. But before that, we will be chanting the Ratana Sutta as usual, and then meditating for a little bit. And after that, Bhante will be giving a Dhamma talk. And if you have any questions, you can put them as usual in the live chat, and we'll get them later. And welcome also to Julia and Kevin and Ethan and Adriana. All right, so if you'd like to chant with us, there is the text of the sutta up in the live chat.
Okay. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Yani dhabhutani samagatani bummani vayani vantaleke. Sabeva bhuta sumana bhavantu atopi saka chasunantu vasitam. Tasmahi bhutani sameta sabe vitam karotamanusya pajaya. Vivacharato charanti eva ling tasmahine rakata apamata. Yan kinchivitang edavahuram vasage suvayam ratanam panitam. Nano samangati tathagatena idampi buddhe ratanam panitam. Etena sachena suvati hotu. Kayang viragam amatam panitam yadanchaga sakya muni samahito. Nadena dhammena samati kinchi edampi dhamme ratanam panitam. Etena sachena suvati hotu. Yang buddha seto bharivannai suching samadhimanandare kanyamaho. Samadhinadhena samona vidyate dampi dhamme ratanam panitam. Etena sachena suvati hotu. Ye bhungalata satam pasata chatari edhani yogani honti. Te dakineya sugata sasavakai te sudinnani mahapalani. Vedampi sanghe ratanam panitam yetena sachena suvati hotu. Ye supayutta manasa dalhena nekamino gotamasasanamhi. Te patipata madham vigaiha landa mudanim buddhim punjamana Vedampi sanghe ratanam panitam yetena sachena suvati hotu Yatinda kilo pataving sito siya chatu vivate via sampakampiyo Tatu pamang samburisam madami yo arya sachani avecha pasati
Idampi sanghe ratanam
Panitam yetena sachena suvati hotu Ye arya sachani vibhavayanti gambhira panyena sudesitani Kinchapi te honti pusapamata te bhavangatamangadiyanti Idampi sanghe ratanam panitam etena sachena suvati hotu Sahava sadasana sampadaya tayasu dhamma jahita bhavanti Sakaya deti vichike chitansha silambatam vapi yadati kinchi Chatuha bhaye hichavipamuto chachamidhanani abhambo katum Idampi sanghe ratanam panitam etena sachena suvati hotu Kinchapi sokam mankaroti papakam kayena vacha udacheta sava Abambo sota sapatichadaya Abambata de tapada sabuta Idampi sanghe ratanam panitam etena sachena suvati hotu Vanapagumbe yatha bhusidhange gimhanamase patamasmin gimhe Tatupamang dhammaparang adesai nibbanagaming paramang hitaya Idampi buddhe ratanam panitam etena sachena suvati hotu Varo varanyu varado varaharo anutaro dhammaparam nadesai Idampi buddhe ratanam panitam etena sachena suvati hotu Khinam puranam navam nati sambhavam virata citta yatite bhavasmin Te kina bija virodhin chandanim banti girayatayam paripo Idampi sanghe ratanam panitam etena sachena suvati hotu Yani bhutani samagatani bhummani vayani vantaleke Tathagatam devamanusapujitam buddham namasama suvati hotu Yani bhutani samagatani bhummani vayani vantaleke Tathagatam devamanusapujitam dhammam namasama suvati hotu Yani bhutani samagatani bhummani vayani vantaleke
Tathagatam devamanusa
Pujitam sangham namasama suvati hotu Etena sacha vanjena dukavo pasanentu te Etena sacha vanjena vayavo pasamentu te Etena sacha vanjena rogavo pasamentu te Okay, so please get in a meditation posture. So settling into position and making a resolution to let the body be still for the entire period of meditation. Taking a few deep breaths. With each breath, releasing all tension from the body and all activity from the mind. Being clearly aware of the body sitting here, taking an interest in the experience of the body, feeling the body intensely, precisely, and joyfully. So, with a smile on your face, cultivate a joyful, alert awareness of the body. Feeling the body as a pleasant domain of sensation. Enjoyable, fascinating.
Right, thank you, Bante. And welcome also to Jessica and Lucas. So this evening we will be talking about, or Bante will be sharing Dhamma on the subject of generosity, as we mentioned earlier. And this will be one of the first of the 10 days dedicated to the paramis. All right, so I'll pass it on to Bante Sudaso.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammam sangham namasam. So, as mentioned, we'll be going over the 10 parami over the next 10 days. So the word parami is usually translated as perfection. It's related to the English word paramount. So that which is paramount, that which is highest, that which is most supreme, most well developed. So parami. And the 10 paramis are said to be the 10 qualities that the Buddha perfected in his lives prior to his final life. So the 10 qualities that he perfected as a bodhisattva. So not to the point of being able to attain enlightenment during those lives, but to create the conditions for him to become a Sammasambuddha. And similarly, in the Mahayana tradition, there's a list of 6 paramita, which is just a variation on the word parami, has the same meaning. So paramita also means perfection. So they're the list of 6, which overlaps to some extent with the list of 10, but it's, well, shorter for one, but also it's slightly different. We'll be going over the 10 paramis from the Theravada tradition. So it should be pointed out, this is not a list that you'll find anywhere in the suttas, though every one of the 10 paramis is found in the suttas individually. The list of the 10 paramis comes from post-canonical works, which is the minor bit of trivia. So the first of the 10 parami is dāna. So dāna literally means giving. So it's from the verb root da, which means give, and the suffix ana, which means ing. So dāna literally means giving. So it's commonly translated as generosity, but there's another Pali word which is a better word for translating as generosity, and that's chaga. So there's some overlap in meaning between these two words, but they're not quite synonymous. So dāna more specifically means giving. So it's the act of giving something to another person. Whereas chaga carries the connotation of letting go. So it's generosity, but it's also the act of releasing, of letting go. So these two words have a slightly different connotation. So dāna then is giving. And there's many ways that one can talk about giving, many kinds of giving. So one of the simplest forms of giving is to give physical things. So this is quite important, especially those of us in monastic life who rely upon dāna. We rely upon the donations and gifts of others for our survival. So our very livelihood is depending on others. Our very livelihood is to depend upon the gifts of others. So others give us our robes. The robes I'm wearing right now are all things that were given to me. Others give us food. So this body is built up of all the food people have given me over the past 15 years that I've been a monk. The monastery that we're living in was from the donations of hundreds of people, mm, thousands of people, possibly. Yeah, thousands of people. Um, so acts of giving physical things. So in American culture, we commonly give people things on their birthdays and on Christmas, and the rest of the year, generally not. Um, at least the way I was raised, don't engage in much giving or receiving of gifts apart from those 2 days. So if someone would give me a gift on any other day of the year, it would feel very special. It would be unexpected and it would bring me a lot of happiness. It's like, oh, wow, thank you. I'm sure all of us can relate to that experience of being given a gift and that sense of gratitude and joy and appreciation that comes up, the happiness that comes when we're given a gift. And especially if what we're given is something that we wanted, or something that we like, or something that we really need, then it has an extra boost, brings us an extra spark of joy and happiness, a deeper appreciation and sense of gratitude. So in giving physical things, then, there is this important consideration. So of course, giving is always good. It's always wholesome. It's always a beneficial thing. But we should also make an effort to think, what can I give that would be appreciated? What can I give that would make the other person particularly happy? What can I give that would be especially helpful? So bringing in the act of consideration greatly enhances the merit of giving. This is a very important point. So as I've mentioned many, many times, every monastery I've ever lived in, Ayasoma's rolling her eyes, probably because she's heard this story about 100 times now. Every monastery I've ever lived in has an overabundance of towels, including this one, by the way. And why is that? No, it's because people are always giving monks towels. I don't know why. I don't know what they think we're doing with all these towels. So it's lovely that someone's giving me a towel. I don't even know how many towels I've been given over the course of my monastic life. I deign to try to count such things. That would be a nightmare. Anyway, so it's cute that someone's giving me a gift. And it's like, well, thank you. That's very sweet. And then it immediately goes on the pile of extra towels. And at some point, whoever in the monastery is in charge of dealing with stores eventually winds up removing that pile of towels. So it's kind of a wasted opportunity to give something meaningful. But then on other occasions, someone will give something which is really needed or really appreciated. It's like a story that Ayasoma likes to bring up is last year, my sandals had worn out to the point where there were holes in the heels. So my heels were actually touching the ground while I was walking. And one of our friends, so May, who's been a resident with us a few times, she noticed that my sandals were worn out, so she got me a new pair of sandals. So that was an act of giving, which was very much appropriate because it was something that was needed. It was something which was beneficial, and it's something which is really appreciated. That's another element of monastic life, is that we come to appreciate simple things because that's all we have. But also we really understand the value of the basic things in life, the ordinary things in life. So that's something which is important to consider. What can we give which will be appreciated, which will be enjoyed, which will be beneficial? Another thing is people commonly will give monks chocolate, and that brings happiness. For example, someone found this funny apparently, but it's true. Another element of giving is giving at the right time. Oh, another element of giving is giving where it brings you inspiration and solace and joy. So giving at the right time is also thinking when would be an opportunity to give, which would be appropriate. Uh, and giving in a way which makes you happy. So that's something else to reflect upon. So where is it when you give a gift, it fills you with joy, it gives you a sense of satisfaction and appreciation. Another element of giving is giving respectfully and considerately. So not just like throwing somebody at something like it's a piece of trash, but actually respectfully handing it to them as though you're giving them something valuable, and displaying courtesy in the act of giving. This also makes a tremendous difference, both on your mind and on the mind of the recipient of the gift. So these are all important things to consider. The Buddha does also mention that there is uh, more merit in giving a gift to a dedicated spiritual practitioner than to a mm, immoral, ordinary person. Um, he says that there's more merit in giving to a monastic than to a layperson. These are unavoidable statements, by the way. It's in the Dakkanapipanga Sutta, for example. He said there's more merit in giving to a sangha, so to a group of monastics rather than just to a single monastic. There's more merit in giving to a dual gender sangha, so a gender of a sangha of both male and female monastics rather than one of only male monastics or only female monastics. Better to give to a group of both male and female monastics. And of course, the best is to give to a group of male and female monastics, which includes a Buddha. But that's a little bit challenging because we don't currently have a Sammasambuddha. And arhants are rare and hard to come across these days. So the best we can usually get is giving to a dual gender monastic sangha. But then this sometimes leads to a misunderstanding in some Buddhist circles that then we should only be generous to monastics and not to anybody else. But this is a complete misunderstanding. We should be generous on every occasion that we have the opportunity. We should give on every occasion that we have the opportunity. We need to be careful not to cultivate a mind of stinginess and withholding. So if you see someone who is in need, then help them out. If you see an opportunity to be kind and generous to another, then do it. If you see an opportunity to give to somebody else, then do it without hesitation, without holding back. So if we're too picky and choosy, like, oh, I'm not going to give to that one. That one has brown hair. No, I do not give to brown haired people. Oh, I'm not going to give to that one either. They're wearing a t-shirt. No sense of taste. I'm not going to give a gift to that one. They're only 5'3". Oh. So if we're too selective about our gift giving, then that also is corrupting our own spirit of generosity. So watching out for that pickiness and selectiveness. So this is an important thing to keep in mind. As I said earlier, although the Buddha did unequivocally state that there's more merit in giving to monastics and to monastic communities, we should still also give to those in need, whether they're monastics or not. We should give to those in need. So donating to charities, especially these days, where there's a lot of people who really need help, and the government's not doing much. So it falls to the rest of us to try to do something about all the problems. So really making an effort to think, what can I give to be of support to those who need it? How can I help out those who are in need? So here at Empty Cloud Monastery, every week we've been giving away boxes of free produce to poverty-stricken people, many of whom have been afflicted by coronavirus, many of whom have had deaths in the family from COVID-19. So we've been giving free vegetables to help support these people, keep them going. So also look around and see, what can you do that can help others out in this kind of way. So that's the simplest form of giving, which is the giving of physical things. And another form of giving is giving emotional support. So when somebody is in any kind of difficult mental state or difficult emotional state, we support them. We demonstrate caring for them. We're kind and gentle to them. So giving kindness, giving gentleness, giving attention to others. So giving is not necessarily just giving physical things. It's also giving kindness and gentleness and attention to the people that we encounter. So this is an interesting one. So when you first encounter someone, reflect, I have an opportunity to give a gift of kindness. So many people, they've been living in close quarters with their relatives or partners or roommates for the past few weeks. And over that time, there's been unwholesome patterns developing of mutual hostility and aversion and grumpiness. And this can happen in monasteries too from time to time. So it's not exclusively the domain of lay people. Now, of course, monastics can get a little grumpy and irritable too sometimes. So then when we get up in the morning, we can make the resolution. The first time I see my roommate, relative, spouse, companion, whoever, today, I'm going to give them the gift of gentleness. I'm going to give them gentle words, gentle speech, gentle eyes, gentle smile. That's a form of giving too. And it's a form of giving that's very easy, and yet for some reason very hard. Why is it so hard sometimes? Such an easy thing to do. So cultivate that as a practice of giving kindness and gentleness and attention to others. And when someone's speaking, pay attention to them. So not interrupting or not ignoring them and waiting for your turn to speak, not poking at your phone, but actually giving attention when someone's speaking to you, even if you're not the least bit interested. Still give them attention as an act of giving. Another element of giving is giving time and energy and effort. So looking out to see, how can I help other people with their projects and activities? And of course, that's a little more difficult these days with social distancing. But also seeing, what can you do while maintaining a safe distance? How can you help others out with what they're doing? Of course, for those you're living with, you'll have a lot of opportunities, but also looking to see what else you can do to be of benefit. So here we've started setting up our garden for the year. So a couple of people came, and while maintaining a safe distance and wearing masks, they helped with moving the dirt around and getting things prepared for the garden. So it's an act of giving. So it's giving time and effort. It's also saying, how can we give time and effort to others? These are all acts of giving. And of course, the Buddha said that the highest form of giving is giving the Dhamma. So the Buddha said, Dhamma dāna sabba dāna janati. So giving the Dhamma is better than every other form of giving. So for that to be possible, of course, first off, we need to understand the Dhamma to at least some extent. If you don't have any Dhamma, you can't give any Dhamma. So it's necessary to cultivate a clear understanding of the Dhamma first, because we also don't want to be misleading people, giving misinformation about Dhamma. We don't want to communicate wrong Dhamma, thinking that it's Dhamma. So I still remember with a fair amount of regret, about 15 years ago, somebody asked me a question about Dhamma, and I gave them an answer that was quite wrong. Because at the time my understanding was still quite new. I didn't really understand Buddhism particularly well. So I gave an answer that was not correct. But at the time I thought it was correct, but it was not correct. So I still remember that as a reminder to me to always be careful to ensure that when I speak about Dhamma, that it's accurate. So this does mean that if we want to give the highest form of giving, which is the gift of Dhamma, then we need to make a sincere effort to understand the Dhamma. And also to speak about what we are confident that we know. So if we really don't understand not self, for example, if we really don't understand the doctrine of anatta, then it's probably not a great idea to talk about it. Except to say, there is this really cool, far out doctrine in Buddhism called not self, but I'm not the best person to explain it. You can say things like that, that's fine. But then the aspects of Dhamma which you do deeply understand, when the time is right, when you see the opportunity, share it with others. And this does require a certain amount of discretion and carefulness. So if you're speaking with other Buddhists, then it's much easier. You can just freely talk about the Dhamma, discuss the Dhamma, share what you know about Dhamma, be open to what the other people have to say about Dhamma as well. Also sharing other Dhamma resources with people, sharing Dhamma books that have helped you out a lot, or pointing people to teachers or Dhamma talks that have helped you out a lot. That's also a form of giving the Dhamma. So it doesn't necessarily mean only your own inspiration, your own understanding of Dhamma. It can also mean sharing resources with other people so that they can access good Dhamma. So again, with giving Dhamma, when speaking to people who are Buddhist, that's much easier because you don't necessarily need to be too careful. With speaking with people who are not Buddhist, it's a bit more challenging. So if somebody directly asks you a question and they express clear interest, then you can talk about Dhamma to your heart's content. That's fine. If you're dealing with somebody who's not particularly interested or has not expressed interest, you can still share Dhamma, but it might need to be a bit more subtle. And if you're talking with somebody who has some kind of open hostility or antipathy towards Buddhism, you can still talk about Dhamma, but it has to be very subtle. So if you directly say, well, the Buddha said in the suttas that such and such, then you probably won't get a good response in those situations. But if you just put it in general terms, without specifically tying it to Buddhism, then you can find ways of integrating Dhamma into what you're saying and sharing with the other person that will not trigger or annoy or upset them. So giving Dhamma, then you do need to put some thought into it. First off, what Dhamma do I understand well enough to be confident in sharing? Or what Dhamma resources, such as talks and books and teachers, have benefited me that I can share with other people? And how can I share the Dhamma in a way which will be well received by the other person? In which they can understand it and benefit from it and will not be annoyed at me for saying what I'm saying. So the act of giving in all these different forms, it's important to emphasize the beneficial effects So there's one place in the sutras where the Buddha said, if you understood the merit of giving as I do, you would not eat even a single bite of food without giving some of it to somebody else. And the Buddha also said that even giving a scrap of food to an animal will return to you tenfold. So the Buddha spoke in many places about the incredibly positive effects of giving. He spoke in many places about the merit, the good karma of giving. And also about giving as being a basis for the arising of joy, a basis for the arising of joy in the mind, which is directly supportive of samadhi. Giving also requires two things. One, it requires renunciation, because you have to be willing to let go of whatever you're giving, whether it's an object or some money or some time or some attention or your desperate urge to say something grumpy instead of something nice, whatever it is, you have to let go of that to perform an act of giving. So there's an element of renunciation in giving. There's also an element of compassion, especially if you practice consideration of really reflecting what would be beneficial, what would be appreciated, um, and giving in a respectful way, and so on. So you have to cultivate a genuine wish for the happiness and well-being of the other person, for the benefit of the other person. And especially when giving Dhamma. Why do we give Dhamma to others? Because we want them to attain enlightenment. Just the highest form of compassion is wanting someone to attain enlightenment, helping them attain enlightenment. It's the best compassion. So the act of giving then nurtures all of these qualities, which are incredibly supportive to the development of the Buddhist path. So the common understanding in traditional Buddhism is that the Buddhist path starts with giving. Long before we try to cultivate wisdom, long before we work on samadhi, before we even get into sila, into morality and virtue, we start with giving. Because this is the foundation for sila, the foundation for samadhi, and the foundation for wisdom. So I think that's all I have to say on the subject for now. So at this time, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to type them into the live chat and I'll answer them as best I can.
Thank you, Bhante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, so we have a few questions. Welcome to the friends who have joined us in the meanwhile. And Maria says, can we give dāna to ourselves?
Well, what do you mean by that? In truth, whenever you cultivate wholesome qualities, you're giving dāna to yourself, which is a really good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Practice dāna to give dāna to yourself.
Yeah.
So to give dāna is basically the same thing. If, for example, we give monthly part of our salary to some cause, is that dāna, even if it's automatic? This is still Marielle.
Yeah. Yeah, of course that's still dāna. Yeah.
And I think you answered this already. Marielle is also asking, if I give a person respect, dignity, kindness, and the sort, would that be considered dāna?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And Gita is asking, Bhante and Aya, have either of you given the Dhamma dāna to your parents?
Well, my father passed away before I became a monk. And he was extremely hostile towards Buddhism. Actually, he was very hostile towards anything other than Christianity, to be honest. So I didn't have much opportunity there. My mother, I speak with her I seed in little bits of Dhamma here and there every now and then. She's a bit more receptive than my father was. Yeah, she's not terribly interested. Um, but I subtly slip in bits of Dhamma all the time. I mean, I'm a Buddhist monk. I talk about Dhamma constantly. So it's actually a bit harder for me to not talk about Dhamma. But yeah, I do what I can to subtly say a few things here and there.
Yeah, and similarly, I um, try to speak Dhamma to my parents, but in making sure, intentionally making sure that they don't understand that I'm actually speaking Dhamma to them. Otherwise, they get very resistant and sometimes a little bit hostile because they think I'm trying to brainwash them. But yes, without using the B word, such as Buddha or Buddhism, then you can talk Dhamma because it's basically Buddhism is common sense. It's just that common sense is not that common. And Bradley says in Samyutta Nikaya 324, King Prasenati asks the Buddha where a gift should be given. And the Buddha says wherever one's heart feels inspired.
Yeah.
Then the king asks, where is the gift most fruitful? The Buddha goes into detail there. Oh, thank you for quoting the Buddha.
Yeah.
No, it's so great. And Gabriela asks, is it possible for laymen to respectfully give refuge and the 5 precepts, or is that solely the domain of monastics?
Well, traditionally, refuges and precepts are given by monastics, and lay people can take them on their own if they want. But traditionally, lay people do not give the refuges and precepts to other lay people. But that's a tradition. I don't particularly see anything wrong with it, I suppose, if that's what you want to do. It's just not the tradition. Yeah. Yeah, I'd be more comfortable just telling them about them rather than doing the whole ceremony of giving the refuges and precepts. That just feels a bit strange for a lay person to be doing that. But if you want to tell somebody about the refuges and precepts, well, of course. Yeah, that's fine.
And her second question is, when giving, what are the ways we can give to have the greatest effect for the greatest amount of people?
Well, that's a question that you need to ask yourself. Ask yourself, how can I give in a way which will have the most positive impact? But also, don't get too caught up in second guessing yourself and turning this into some like intellectual exercise. Just give. Be generous. Be supportive. Give. You don't need to be too strategic about all of this. So a certain amount of strategizing is fine. In fact, it's wholesome. But don't let it get in the way of that heart of generosity, because that's what's really important. Cultivating that heart which just freely gives to others without holding back.
Right. And Nimahus, I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly. Maybe it's Nimajus. Says, I'm confused with the idea that giving is good and rewarded. In other instances, Buddhism seems to say that one cannot know what is actually good or bad. For example, it's not good to feed wild animals such as birds. You can disrupt their migration patterns and have them starve in the winter. Similar to the example of cousins who kept asking for money. Oh, the story from Jen.
So first off, I don't understand what you mean by saying that Buddhism says you can't tell what's good and what's bad. I don't know what you're talking about there. Because in Buddhism, it's actually quite clear what's wholesome and what's unwholesome, what's good and what's evil. It's very clear. So the example you gave of giving food to birds, I mean, I don't know anything about birds' migratory patterns. So I guess if you wanted to make a habit of giving food to birds, it might be good to do a little bit of research on that. Um, yeah, just off the top of my head, I don't really think there's anything terribly wrong about feeding birds. In fact, it seems like a wholesome thing. But yeah, doing it with a little bit of thoughtfulness and carefulness so that you're not causing problems is always best. As I mentioned fairly early on in the talk, it's important to be considerate and thoughtful about what we're giving and how we're giving. So an example is if you're giving food to someone, then also thinking, what can I give that would be supportive to that person's health? What would be of benefit to them? So giving someone McDonald's, probably not the best idea. I mean, it's still an act of giving, but it's an act of giving which is injurious to their health. So maybe not the best plan. Maybe giving them some nice organic food instead would be better. Something that will help them out a bit more. So in the case of migratory birds, again, I'm not an expert on the subject. I don't have any particular thought on that. But yeah, the Buddha was extremely clear all throughout the suttas that the act of giving is inherently good karma. It's an act of kindness and support to another being. So that creates the conditions to receive kindness and support. It's mutual uplift, mutual support, mutual goodness. Yeah.
And Kevin says, on the topic of dāna, please visit the BI site to help support the monastery. These talks in Bantenaya. Oh, sadhu, 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 Kevin. If you like, you can go on buddhistinsights.com/donate. That is the website. Thank you. And Julia says, Ayasoa, would you be able to email an updated list with sizing information on clothes and shoes so we have this info for both of you? I guess we can create perhaps.
Send us an email.
Yeah.
And we'll give you the info. Yeah.
Thank you. Sadhu. And Denise says, I sometimes think dāna to monastery is similar to the Christian tithe.
Tithing.
Tithe. What is that? Tithe?
It's built into the Italian taxation system, where they automatically take a percentage of your income to give to the church.
Well, I mean, or you can give it to a nonprofit. You have to give charity.
Anyway, it used to be mandatory in many Christian countries that a percentage of your income went directly to the church.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, it says, however, tithing equals 10% of income, while dāna seems to be open-ended. Any thoughts?
Yeah. So dāna is voluntary. It's voluntary. You choose the amount. You choose the timing. It's up to you. And that's what makes it powerful. When something is done against your will, then that's not voluntary, so therefore it's not karma. But when you do something voluntarily, then it's karma. And the more effort and attention that you put into something, then the stronger the karma is.
Oh, I just Googled. The dictionary is 1/10 of annual produce or earnings formerly taken as a tax for the support of the church and clergy. Okay, yes, we have the tithe in Italy that we can decide.
But I think it's only 1% these days instead of 10%.
Yeah, it's 1%.
Yeah.
And Italians are angry about that 1%. Anyway.
Yeah, we don't have that here in the US. So yeah, it's very different. If the money is being taken against your will, then it's not dāna. That's just taxation. So dāna is a voluntary act of giving. So why do you give to the monasteries? Because you want the monasteries to keep existing. Because you believe that monasteries are a source of goodness for the world.
In fact, she says, thank you, Bante. I was missing the voluntary aspect of it. Coming from an evangelical background, tithing seemed voluntary to me, but it actually is not. It probably has to do with historical reasons why there's the tithe, whatever it's called, system. I think in Christianity, it probably came. I think there is a parallel with dāna in Buddhism. It's just that then it was kind of formalized because obviously the Vatican institutionalized everything. So probably they institutionalized the sort of dāna to begin with.
I think also Japan has a similar system where you register with your local Buddhist temple, and then a small percentage of your income automatically goes to the temple.
That's also how Germany works. Like you decide which one you're affiliated to. Anyway, so I think it has to do with history, but I'm not particularly personally informed about it. But I think the origin is probably similar. It's just that obviously in Buddhism we put it's embedded in the spiritual practice that we do. So it's a big emphasis.
So it's the intentional element that's really important here. So you make the intention, I want to support the monastery. And then based on that intention, then you give.
Yeah.
So it's very different than tithing.
Yeah, just like monastics practice dāna and open the doors of the monastery to the lay people, offer retreats without a price tag to lay people. We're all practicing dāna together.
Yeah.
And Kevin says, did the Buddha give specific criteria for what constitutes a sangha?
So in the suttas, the word sangha refers to monastics. First of all, refers to monastics. And the technical definition that's given in the Vinaya is sangha refers to a group of 4 or more monastics. But in ordinary language, we don't normally use that technical definition. In ordinary speech, sangha just means a group of monastics. So 2 or more monastics living in a place. We also sometimes use the word sangha to refer to the global sangha, like all monastics, all Buddhist monastics in the world. Sometimes you'll also hear the term fourfold sangha, which is referring to the community of monastics of both genders and lay people of both genders. So in total, the 4 groups, the 4 pieces of the entire Buddhist community, including everyone. And of course, that doesn't specifically mention transgender people, but they're implicitly included. So I guess these days we'd have to say the 6-fold sangha, but the term you'll traditionally hear is the 4-fold sangha. Another use of the word sangha that you'll sometimes encounter is called the Arya Sangha, which is noble sangha, so those who have attained some degree of awakening, which can include lay people, but is usually mostly monastics. Okay, so those are the ways the word sangha is normally used.
Right, and Mark is asking, just as there is something called idiot compassion, is there something called idiot giving? Sometimes I just don't want to give to the same people begging in front of a business.
There is such a thing as idiot giving. So an example of this was the question that somebody asked the other day about their cousin who's just constantly mooching off of them. So it's actually a case where the proper form of giving is to give them help in learning how to be self-sufficient. Rather than giving them money over and over again, the proper thing is to give them support in finding a job and an apartment and so on. So it's still performing giving, it's just giving what's helpful, giving a long-term solution rather than a short-term solution. So as for the people begging in front of a business, well, actually, I would still say give them something, give them an energy bar or a piece of fruit or something. But also think about giving to whatever local organizations support the homeless. Give to whatever local organizations help out homeless people. So that you're addressing a larger scale issue as well. And also consider what you can do on larger scales that address the problem in the first place. So as we spoke about the other day in the talk on Buddhist politics, the Buddha heavily emphasized the importance of social welfare systems, of systems which support poor people and disadvantaged people directly. So also seeing what you can do to support programs like that. Yeah, the act of giving, it's still good karma. So there is such a thing as idiot giving. It's still good karma. It's just not as good as wise giving. So try to cultivate wise giving.
Hello, Jeannie. Good to see you online. She says, finally, I'm catching you live. Just glad to be here. Makes me feel closer to you both live.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Yes, Jeannie is also a paragon of dāna. She, wonderful, generous being.
Yeah.
And Gabriela says, when it comes to the precepts, I see most of them as giving fearlessness. So this is why I think giving precepts is one very effective act of dāna, but I'm not one to break with tradition. And Denise said, oh, sorry, I read that already. In Yang sense, Bante, can you speak about receiving gifts and generosity from others? How can this be part of the development of the path?
Yeah, so that's a really important point that you bring up. So when somebody else is giving a gift, it's important to receive it with gratitude, to express gratitude, to express appreciation. Tell them, thank you, that's so kind, that's so thoughtful. I really appreciate that you took the time and effort to give me a gift. I really appreciate this. This is so kind. So really, really making an effort to express your appreciation and to do so with a genuine heart, to do so with sincerity. And sometimes this is difficult, especially if you're in a bad mood or you're a bit spaced out or whatever. It can be challenging, but really make an effort to cultivate gratitude and to display appreciation. But it is important to be willing to accept the gifts of others. Because when somebody gives you a gift and you receive it, then you're allowing them to make merit. If someone tries to give you something and you refuse it, well, that's actually not very nice. But there is one exception to this, which is sometimes somebody is trying to give you something, but you can tell it's too much for them. Like they're giving beyond their means. They're giving beyond what they actually have the ability to give. And in that case, the proper thing to do is actually to say something like, thank you, that's very kind, but I want you to keep this. I want this to be for you. And if they insist again, then once again, you might just politely receive the gift. But it is important to make that distinction of trying to figure out, is the person giving beyond what is actually good for them to give? So in the Vinaya, there's actually a rule which says that if a layperson becomes so generous to the Sangha that it's starting to harm them, like they're giving away more than they actually can, then the Sangha, out of compassion for that person, should stop receiving their donations. So this is very interesting because it's a specific case where someone is overly generous to the point where it's harming themselves. In that case, the proper thing to do is to refuse their gifts. Gently, kindly, but out of compassion, we don't let them put themselves in financial danger or to give away what they need. But generally speaking, when someone gives a gift, the gift that we give back is the gift of gratefully, respectfully receiving their gift. That is giving a gift to the person. Okay?
Interesting trivia fact. Denise says Old Testament equals Jewish law mandated 10% to the temple. I
maybe
did not
that's
know.
where tithing comes from.
Yeah, very interesting. I'm going to research this. For whatever reason, my mind is very curious about it. And Cam says, Bante, there are times that I have moments of hesitation to give or overthinking about it. How do I overcome that? Oh, I would have never told. Cam is also a big paragon of kindness and generosity.
Just give. Without hesitation, just give. That's how you get past it. When you see an opportunity to be generous, just do it. Without regret. And delight in the act of giving without any attachment to what you're giving away. Okay?
And Karen says, I try to practice giving without discriminating. However, with one friend, I find myself constantly annoyed by her requests. Hate to admit, but I feel hurt by her lack of reciprocity. Any advice?
Yeah, that's a difficult situation. First off, if somebody's requesting something, then that also makes it a little bit more difficult to be generous, unless you've invited them to request for things. Yeah, I would say still be generous anyway, but watch your mind. Watch that negativity in your mind and try to let go of it. Because it also sounds like you're expecting something back. So if you're expecting something in return, then it's not true giving. It's not really genuine. That's called bartering. That's not called giving. If you expect something back, then it's not a pure act of giving. So give without expectation of return. But if over time you start to realize that a particular person really is toxic, then usually the thing to do is to have less contact with them, or even stop spending time with them altogether. But as far as this issue, yeah, it sounds to me like the issue is that you're expecting something back, which means you're not quite committed to the act of giving. Okay.
And Gabriella asks, how can one be a good recipient of gifts in order to maximize the ability to benefit others and encourage giving? You should ordain, Gabriella. That's how.
I think I already answered that question.
Yeah, become a monastic and you maximize that. And Key says, I have given dāna previously, but just gave. I have been told in another talk that it is wholesome to reflect on the intention and action before and after the giving.
Yeah, that builds up the impact on your mind, which, yeah, that increases the merit, increases the good karma. So Ajahn Amaro said that doing good deeds but not reflecting on them is like depositing money in your bank account but without using it. So yeah, reflect on your goodness. So before, reflect. I'm about to give a gift. How wonderful is that? Give the gift. And afterwards, reflect. Oh, I just gave a gift. That was great. So the Buddha called this chaga recollection of our own goodness, awareness of our own goodness.
And Maitreya has two questions. The first one says, Sadhu Bhante for the Dhamma talk. Suppose someone gives financial support to the monastery, but the money is misused. Will the giver get the merits?
Yes. One of the lovely things about giving is that you are not responsible for what the recipient does with the gift. That's their choice. So if you give with a pure heart, then you still get all the merit, even if the other person doesn't use it well. So let's imagine that you go up to a person and with a heart of kindness and generosity, you respectfully offer them a muffin, and the person takes it and throws it in the trash right away. Well, I mean, they're being a jerk, but that doesn't change the fact that you still got all the merit of offering that person food. And just because that person did something disrespectful or wasteful does not change the fact that you cultivated merit, that you cultivated good karma. Now, in the case of where you think a monastery is being wasteful with its funds, you could explore why. It's possible that they're just not very competent in using money, in which case you might think, how can I help them? How can I help them learn how to be more fiscally responsible? How can I help them learn how to manage money more effectively? That would be another form of giving, is to give them better financial management skills. Or if you find out that the waste is happening because of some unwholesome thing going on, then yeah, you might see if there's something you can do to try to clean up that situation. That would be another form of giving. But if also you eventually decide that the situation is utterly hopeless, then it might be better to donate somewhere else where you think that it will be used more effectively.
And Maitreya's other question is, can supporting the monastery and Sangha through financial support and dāna offering be considered as offering Dhamma?
Indirectly, yes. Yeah, because you're supporting the practice of Dhamma, which leads to wonderful practitioners and wonderful teachers and paragons of the Dhamma. And that then supports the sharing and spreading of the Dharma, the teaching of the Dharma, the clarifying of the Dhamma. So yeah, supporting those who practice and teach Dhamma is an indirect way of giving Dhamma. That's true.
All right, and that was the last question. Thank you so much, Bhante, for this beautiful talk and for sharing the wisdom of the Buddha with us. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And thank you all for practicing the Dhamma. Last question. He says, dāna could also be time, right? If we volunteer to help. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We are, Buddhist Insights is, in fact, an entirely volunteer-run organization. Mm-hmm. We all have equal pay, which is 0, and lots of good karma. So we'll see you again tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., which will be your evening tea. So hopefully we'll see you in less than 12 hours, all of you. And tomorrow evening, there will be I think we're studying the parami of truthfulness. Is that correct?
I think so.
Yes, tomorrow, another parami. Either Bhante or me, surprise monk. But tomorrow morning, no surprises. There will be Bhante Sudazo sharing Dhamma Sutta study, our favorite part of the day. All right, well, have a great...
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.